Welcome back, everyone, to the Review Step, the Trading Post UNIVERSUS podcast. I am joined today by Head of Organized Play at UVS Games, Levi, Shri, and Kyle. And we are going to talk a little bit today about what it took to get you to where you are right now, how the current setup for LCs and organized play is a massive improvement, and we all love it, and some of the things that maybe we want to see changed in the future. How have you been so far?
I'm great. Yeah, guys. Hello. My name is Levi. I'm the organized play manager for UNIVERSUS. And if you're new around here, I've gone through this crazy pipeline of being a player to being a content creator to being a marketing team employee to being an organized play employee. And now leading the charge to bring you guys the best OP that hopefully you've ever had in this era of the game, or any eras. Maybe. I'm not a knower.
Mm-hmm. So this is your first season taking over organized play. How's it going?
It's been great. Worlds was technically my first event I worked in the role, and that one was great, but it was also the finale of an organized play series that I did not create. So while you guys got a taste of the feel and the slickness of the organized play in this infrastructure at Worlds, it was not the full picture. Now we're in the full picture. This local championship season has been absolutely insane. It's just wrapped up, and now we're leading into Chicago, the very first regional, my first event from complete start to finish. And it is extremely exciting. I'm very nervous, but I'm very pumped to see everyone in Chicago. But I've also been very pumped to see everyone in the butts of their local game stores at these local championships. Man, it was very obvious internally what I wanted to do with these, and it was also obviously it was obvious to me what I wanted to do. The goal of this new local championship structure, this not so local championship structure, was to basically just bring back PTCs. But as much as I tried to enable that, I had no idea how everyone was going to play ball. I say everyone, I mean the stores and the players. You just don't know. I was estimating that maybe like a third of the 40 stores would hit that like 16 benchmark. I thought it was a little bit optimistic, and the UNIVERSUS community has done what it's done time and time again over the years, and just blown my expectations away, man. All of these 16-person events, all of these 32+ person events, it's really been heartwarming, man. The UNIVERSUS players are just, they're amazing. They're so passionate and they're so excited about the game. And really all you have to do, you just have to give them a crumb. You have to give them a crumb. You have to bring them in, but they will play ball. They do love this game, and they've really shown me that over these last few weeks of LCs.
100%. And speaking to what you were talking about earlier with like functionally trying to bring back PTCs, you were the next in a line of people who inherited an organized play cycle from the past season, but we all saw like your vision because you were very vocal about it with the people who had asked, and you were like, yeah, the Levi administration, we're going to be doing this, the slickness, the
State of the Union.
Yes, the State of the Union. Yes. And it was very much so kind of trying to make these into something more real. Like they used to just be, yeah, it's like a store scramble or whatever. If you can make it, great. If you can't, whatever.
Yeah, if you win it, you get 1/5 of the points needed to qualify for like the day one / really the LCQ of last Worlds. It was all just a little confused. And at the end of the day, the prestige was not there.
Yeah,
as you can argue everything about like how much the structure made sense or it didn't make sense. That's a whole rabbit hole that honestly I didn't make the structure. Not very interesting going down that rabbit hole.
Sure, for sure.
But the prestige was certainly not there.
Yeah.
This is not even a new problem either. I mean, if you want to harken back to like a good comparison is the year before when we invite locked nationals, and that, winning your Nats invite was supposed to be this big prestigious thing you did at your LC, or when you like, topped a regional or something. I think it was like top 16 got Nats invites at regionals. And by like the third regional of the year, the national invites were passing all the way down to like 90th place.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
there's nothing there.
Not so prestigious anymore. And then, look what that did to the local championship attendance. It's just, it all goes hand in hand. But at the end of the day, as long as you put some level of prestige in it, as the company, as the organization, the players will treat it accordingly.
Oh, for sure. Because even back when it was like 20 to 30 people like total split between like 2 PTCs in the same like state even. Back when the game was like way smaller, people would still come out to them, and they were for, if I recall correctly, flight vouchers, similarly to like this, where just getting to the next event was like the goal, the reward for the community being way smaller back then when it was. And now when we have all these people, like you were saying, the community mind blowing how awesome it is that everyone will go out to all of these events when there's something on the line, when they care about it, right? So like we had, I think 53 was the final number that we had in attendance.
Crazy.
at the season 1 LC for us. And
what a great way to start things off.
Oh yeah,
But not
for
just
sure.
that, right? We
Busy.
had 32 at Counterspell. We had Meeple, take off 20 plus.
Yeah, Meeple's 25.
And not just the hubs, right?
Yeah,
we
and that
had
was all-
internationally, New Zealand had 17
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a store that isn't
New Zealand and
prominent.
Akikambara both popped off. The EU had an amazing show. Patriot Games, I think, did 24 total. And then both of the Spain ones, Mundo Magic and Ateneo Comics.
Yeah.
Not sure to say that. Both like 24, 25 people. This past weekend, there were like 170 players in LCs.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
all in the
And
same days in the same countries,
Yeah.
sometimes same regions.
That's one of the craziest things too, because we also had on the same day as Trading Post and Counterspell, we had Gaming Giant in Fairfax
Yeah,
that got
22.
22. Yeah. So just in the US, that's like 100 people right there across 3 events. That's
What do you think's the driver, for this early success? Because
So-
you mentioned, right, 25% was the goal. You're almost at 75% of your LCs firing well beyond the 16-person threshold, right?
Yeah, I mean the driver. So there's a few drivers, and I want to. We could talk about the pricing a lot too, but I really do want to like zone in on what's changed about this pricing because, like, spoiler alert, I'll be very honest, it's not much. When I came into this role and reworked this system, all of these local championship kits were very clearly they're designed exactly the same as they were last year. I have to send 2 of them just to get you guys 32 participation promos. So the actual structure of this kit could not change. The choices of the cards could not change. That was all locked in. The only real flexibility I had with Bryson this year was the unlicensed stuff. So that's where things like travel vouchers and generically branded deck boxes and sleeves and invites and stuff like that can come in. And so that stuff is great. But realistically, unless you get first place and get like, your UCS invite and or a travel voucher, if you got enough people, this is functionally very close to the LCs as last year. And so when I say what's the driving force, all of that pricing was never that bad in the first place. And now, there's even more stuff on top of it. The promos are also amazing card choices too, like just, hardcore staples. They look beautiful. There's a lot of stuff you can tack on there. But at the end of the day, it is not a massive, massive leap from what they were before. So what is the driver? I think it's just because we're showing that we care about them.
yeah.
And
I think that goes such a long
from
way.
like a TO store perspective between last season and now, right?
So
What do you think has kind of changed and got that engagement and excitement?
it's interesting because we went on a store championship or whatever they were called last year spree because we were all so new that we were just like, we just need to get the 50 points so we can go play at Worlds and try and enjoy some of these things. Obviously, we ended up with better results than I think either of us would have expected. And promos is obviously, if we ever get promos like this again, or even close to how good these two are, I think that's it. But the travel voucher alone is such a big change for a TO for me, because obviously we put a lot into the pricing, but it's hard to run a good event when it feels like the stuff you're getting from a company is just like, yeah, we made these, we put them out, have fun, give away some packs. And it's not that the entire onus is on organized play or it's on the store, but when there's a combination where you're like, oh, we're giving away $150 of a travel voucher, as a store, I want to be like, okay, well then we'll do something a little bit bigger. And it forces you almost into like a little bit of a rat race between making the events as good as you can because you feel like you are actually supported from the company that you're working with, instead of, oh, we got the kit, let's run the event.
Right.
So the deck box for a regional edition. But it just feels so much better to run an LC when I'm like, hey, if we get enough people, we're giving away $300 of UVS's money.
It's pretty sweet, man.
Why not?
I do like travel voucher a lot. That is a very like player inspired. Like that's what I would go to a local championship for if I was
for
playing
sure.
a card game. I would love to go and like spank a $150 travel voucher that either like that's like maybe half or a third of my plane ticket to the next regional, or maybe I just bank that for a vacay later, and instead that $150 I save on my vacay flight, well maybe that's a couple tanks of gas now to drive to this other LC. You can kind of go and then maybe you go to that LC and you win another one, or maybe you go to that regional and then you top 8, then you get another one, and that's it's kind of the
I think
idea
you
there.
bring up a really good point here, and I'm wondering what's kind of the dichotomy, right? You have prizing that is for the engaged, organized player space, like people who play competitively and have been going to these traditional events, and we've seen that to be a huge hit. We did notice at our LC though, we brought out a lot of locals who would never attend a regional ever, who would never go to this type of event. It was their first organized play event ever outside of, a scramble, right? What's kind of the North Star and what's balancing, for, I don't want to say new player acquisition, right?
Sure.
But new OP player acquisition versus the existing base. And how do you take that into consideration as a TO and, from the company's perspective?
Yeah, the local championship system is clearly made like it's for the grinders. There's not really any secrets there. It's for the grinders. There's not that many of these things as compared to what they were last time around. I'm looking for the travel. I'm looking for, deckless registrations. Like these events are for the more competitive players, especially because most of the prizing here is built on tying into greater OP. But the nice thing about prizing that ties into greater OP is that can also function for the casual players.
Yep.
Your new player might not win their LC, but if they do, and then they get a $150 travel voucher, that's going to encourage them to go to their next event just as much as it would a competitive player. Yeah. So you get to double dip a little bit there. Really though, at the end of the day, that's just kind of where the promo is looking real good comes in. Your new players, do they own 4 Queen of the Monsters? Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Probably not. Probably not. And if they happen to spike a top 8, very possible. Maybe if you're at a smaller LC, they probably don't afford Destructive Heat Rays either. So the promos are going to be pulling most of the weight there. But yeah, the LCs are definitely top heavy, and that is very much intended. That's kind of where that prestige comes in. At the end of the day, though, I think anything held at a local game store is always going to be pretty open and friendly, as long as the community shows up and does their thing, which, dude, our community is freaking awesome, man. Even when you're playing against the grinders, playing the most meta decks in the room, you're going to be laughing your butt off with Kevin Broberg while he Pumat souls your life away.
Oh, yeah.
But you're still going to have a great time. And,
yes.
Yeah. And so,
Exhibit A.
Yeah, it is really hard to balance that, though. It's tough to make a structure that's kind of like tying both of those things together. In an ideal world, the Store Scramble program would be pulling a little bit more weight there, but that's just not a program that I really had any time or ability to come in and iterate on hardcore last minute. The attention really all went to like local championships onwards. So not that those events are unwelcoming to new players, but they're not targeted specifically at them.
Yeah.
And as from the TO side, and it's Donnie back to what I was talking about though, but the second UVS is more excited to run the next series of events and they're adding cool additional stuff. Card games are entirely based on the excitement that the people around them are. And we are in a really privileged position because if you walk and interact with anybody in the Trading Post, we are all going to be talking about UNIVERSUS. We're always going to be doing something like that. So for us, it's easy to stir that excitement. It's easy to get the local players that we've been friends with and we've played at other stores with to come out. But I think if you are just a store and you see the adjustment that was made, you are going to talk more highly about your event. Your staff is going to talk more highly. Ideally, that is where it goes. Because so much of getting more people to come out is making sure you are excited to run the events. And I think the culmination of what we got to pitch to our players for this series was something to be excited about.
I think the scaling rewards too can kind of play, not a huge hand, but a little hand. If 14 of your friends that play UNIVERSUS, maybe you don't, but there's 14 of them and they're like, dude, we should need a couple more people to hit that 16, man. Here, I'll lend you a deck. Maybe that person tries their first UNIVERSUS event. And maybe it's not even that. Maybe they just play other games at their LGS, but then they hear that their LGS is holding a 30-person event for this card game and there's a bunch of travel vouchers on the line. Maybe it's time to pick up a deck and try and learn this game. So that's less new player focus. Well, that's less casual player focus. Yes. But new players can be grinders. If they're competitive grinders from other card games, you can bring them in here and they're going to be jumping feet first into hell in this in a competitive environment. But if they're playing other competitive card games, they know what's going on and they're going to be down to do the thing and they're trying to win some shit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's like also the driving factor is this game is at its core really like complex and it's a card game player's card game. We had a friend who, like you were talking about, bringing people back into the game that might have some passing familiarity. We had a friend who attended our LC just because he lived in the area, Steve, who learned how to play at one point, then went, I don't really have time to do this. And then we went, well, this is the big one. Do you want to come out and play in the big one? And he's like, I'll relearn.
People like to do the thing that everyone else is doing.
For sure,
It's exciting. It's great to be involved and it's fun. So
I had a buddy
crazy
who
it's that simple, but like that is actually
high tides.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a buddy who I told him, I was like, yeah, we have like 50 people coming or something like that. And he up to now has been like, yeah, I really want to like play more UNIVERSUS with you. I want to learn the game more. I have not ever entered a tournament, and I live like on the other side of the state. Like I live in like Clinton Township or something like that. And it's like an hour drive to Novi. And I'm like, well, man, this is the time to do it if you want to come down. Like he had scheduling issues, but he's going to be at the next one for sure. Because I showed him all the pictures and I was like, we got this really good venue. Everyone was super excited. Kyle crushed it.
Yeah.
Venue was so dope.
Yeah,
Oh
venue
my
was
goodness.
awesome.
Holy
Shout outs,
cow.
I mean,
Yeah,
shout outs to the hub.
Hey,
But
shout out to one of the only few tournaments to run on time.
I was
And
7
not
minutes
crash
late.
out by
I'll be
cardio.
better. I'll be better next time. I promise, guys.
yeah. Oh, well, you said one of the dreaded words. If this was Nickelodeon, you get slimed. You said cardio. So do you want to talk about improvements? We've been glazing a little bit here in terms of, organized play, but
he's getting
I
hot.
will.
Yeah.
I will preface this that we went to a handful of LCs where there were certain issues with cardio. So when we were starting our event, I built a mirrored version of it because I was just like, if something goes wrong, it was something that when we were talking about planning it, that is one of the few things I felt we didn't have as much control on. And you might not exactly be the person that we bring this up to, but have you felt the issues to be more prevalent in this season? Was it something that you feel like you've dealt with more often than you wanted to? How have you felt about some of the concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nothing completely out of the ordinary. It's a new event template. We're trying out new things, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna be the conduit for feedback and improvements as much as I can. But that's really the extent of my kind of connection
Sure, that makes
there.
sense.
yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I think the one that I see a lot of people laughing about, but also being like, this is crazy, is I think maybe there has not been a single LC yet that has not had at least one decklist error that UGN has just let fly, or like Cardio has just been like, no, it's fine. You can play 5 copies of that in your deck, or that card rotated or is banned, but it's whatever.
I have rotated characters that are legally valid for all the LCs right now. So
Yeah.
clearly there's
Yeah.
something broken in the
Someone
database
at
system.
I think someone at RLC played Unyielding Destruction in their Titan.
Oh,
deck.
that's a good one
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
for free.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
every
for
turn.
free. I mean,
Every turn.
Question: why did I not know about that?
Oh, because when they submitted their deck list, it said approved.
Did this actually? Sorry.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Did Rebby handle this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Then
found out.
I
Yeah.
know.
We
We
found
found
out
out
later.
later.
We found out later.
I
Yeah.
read the whole thing. Didn't even know.
No. So,
Yeah. But
no,
it's-
these are things that we'll catch because
No,
the,
for sure.
The
It's-
front end, you can't ask the TOs and people to go through and
No,
look
no,
and
not at
have
all.
to cross validate across universes.
No, yeah, it's just a matter of like, there's also, I think maybe at the Gaming Giant one, there was like some issues going on with like registering a deck list to the point where someone was like, well, there's like a new player and like his son or whatever is like here and we can't get their deck lists to work. So they registered 60 card 0 attack Godzilla because it was the only thing that was able to be submitted. So like, whatever. Sometimes you just let it ride. You make do because it's
Yeah,
like
sometimes,
it's a passionate community and it's on the like the TOs will make do on the fly, right? Like
And I will tell you, as a TO, this is not a cardio exclusive issue.
no, not at all.
No.
I have used the old ingrained Wizards reporting would just break. You could have it downloaded to your computer, use a local database. You are never touching the internet, and it would go, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, you're probably still
So-
paying for a challenge subscription.
Yeah. So like, it's not exclusive to anybody. You will always run into tournament software problems, and it's good to just be able to adjust.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I
but
mean, do what you got to do to get your event started.
Yep.
At the end of the day,
That's
that's
it.
that's what I always tell you. We can figure anything else out later.
Yeah.
And if you're an aspiring TO, know that to its core.
Oh,
that
for sure.
Stuff is gonna go wrong.
it's okay.
Just
Yeah.
take a breath. It'll be fine.
And
The
even-
players are always way nicer than you think they're going to be. They're always way more accommodating. They totally understand.
Yeah. And even as far as like just playing ball with OP goes, UVS Games has been always helpful regardless of whoever's behind the wheel.
My inbox Saturday morning was literally David Toombs in Lubbock at Storm Crow. It was Paul Butler messaging me about Counterspell, and then also dealing with things on site over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a fun weekend, but
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
the gig.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I am very aware of specifically a lot of the issues with the deck builder right now.
Yeah.
That's one of those ones that are like much more definitive and much easier to quantify.
Yeah.
Those are at the top of my radar now. They're kind of I'm not gonna say they're on the back burner at the moment, but it is not being addressed immediately because there are kind of some other big things going on
Yeah,
with cardio and the UGN that you'll be seeing soon.
Yeah.
Whoa. Any sneak peeks?
That was your sneak peek.
That was greedy boy.
I'm a greedy boy. Well, speaking of things we probably can fix versus the ones we can't, season 3 and 4 applications are out. You have a lot of data now from season 1, a lot of players, a lot of feedback. You've made the rounds. What have you learned? What are you thinking about that you can convey for the future of LCs?
Man, I've learned that hitting 16 people as a benchmark for attendance was not nearly as unrealistic as I thought it might be. No guarantees yet. I haven't sat down and looked at the full applications. They're still coming in until midnight tonight. But there's a world where like 16 people could be a very genuine benchmark for like a repeated LC. It might not be. There's still a lot of other factors taken into account, making sure the spread is nice and all too. At the end of the day, though, there's definitely like some pretty stark differences when it comes to attendance on some of these events. And a lot of that was really hard to do in round 1 and 2 because, I mean, exactly what you just said, Tree. I had zero data. Not only did I have zero data, I mean, I had these stores, weekly player average, but that can only tell me so much. You also have to look at like, are they in a cluster of players? They might only have 4 people every week, but are there 4 stores within each other that all have 4 people a week? Also, then I got to go and see if those are also different accounts from each other. Is it 16 individuals? Is it for the same people? Is it more of a mix? How many folks are nearby? It was just, man, dude, it was really tough, especially because we don't even have any kind of track record for this sort of thing. Something that, and this is one of the reasons why this new LC structure exists, is that we have just never like stress tested what the local game store could do. We've tried, we put Nats invites in LCs and, tried to tell you that if you don't go to your game store and win your Nats invite, we'll kick you out the building. That is the closest we ever come to that, and that's not really a system that I'm fond of. No. I'm a much bigger fan of just motivating people through like genuine positive engagement rather than if you don't come to this thing, I'll punish you. I'd rather just give you a bunch of if you do come to this thing, I'll reward you. So I think those go a much longer way. But the main thing that I didn't know was what could any store possibly be capable of? If I started this year going, well, I really want like, 5 or 6 40-person events at a local game store, almost like mini regional style. Is that a program I could commit to? No, I have zero idea if any store in the US could get 40, 50 people playing UNIVERSUS at it. I know now. I know now that a few folks are capable of it. So that gives me a lot of data to work with, which, is very relevant for round 3 and round 4. If you've checked out the application for round 3 and 4 LCs at all, it's no secret. There's literally a whole new question on there that says, are you interested in hosting multiple LCs per round? You could probably expect something might be happening there with these really, really high performance stores. Because at the end of the day, even if it might hurt the spread a little bit, the more 50-person LCs I can get, the better. We obviously don't want to hurt the spread too much. There's going to be a whole lot of factors to consider. I'm not trying to leave any core location out. At the end of the day, though, the idea of these things is to be really big, is to be really prestigious, and to encourage travel. And I'm going to make whatever necessary decisions I've got to make there to try and ensure that, the competitive players stay fed.
Well, what about from a TO and players perspective? What are things you really liked about the LC season so far? I mean, we've attended a ton of them, unfortunately.
I think Kyle and I uniquely can speak to attending a ton of them. Yeah. We
you did pretty well at one, huh?
I did. Yeah. Okay. We kicked in the door and stole the sign off the dojo at Oinkers Island on a Tuesday in the middle of the night because Shri wanted to send James a gift, I guess. But we a gift. I think I'm a gift.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. I was gonna say so. It's like you said, the competitive players with this LC structure are well fed. It is great, especially, and like this is kind of similarly to what you're saying with like rising tides and all this other stuff being a factor of a perfect storm for this LC attendance spike. It's a new format. It's post rotation. People are excited to play, and there's a big event coming up that they want practice for. All of these LCs being in the immediate vicinity and run up to Chicago as a major regional, and being in a similar format with at this point only one errata going into effect, or two erratas, I guess. Sorry, Mark. Going into effect prior to Chicago.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so did we.
Just like they forgot they can't fill a check on him, right?
Exactly. So getting all of that data as a competitive player, regardless of any other incentives, for the like true like seasoned veterans, the true grinders, that's the real ideal. The invite, also great, because that means that you can perfect a deck that you want to be playing over the course of the year leading up to Worlds. If you already have your invite, you can iterate on it. You can play new things. Normally, if you would be suspect of like, well, I should probably just play Titan of Terror, or I should probably just play Puma, or I should probably just play Reiner, or something like tried and true that's won an LC or done super well. If you have this fallback of, oh, I've already done well at one of my LCs, or I've already made top cut at a regional, and these LCs are a great way to get some amount of competitive testing in with an unproven idea, because you can see into a field of other people who are trying to get to where you're at. Oh, this idea does or does not work into what's currently good and what might be good going into Worlds. So notwithstanding for all the other incentives, just the competitive like playground to test all of these new things out is fantastic.
There's an actual middle ground now
Yes.
between like
Yeah.
regionals. I
Yeah.
feel like we went into every regional last year with like zero idea of what the field would be.
Oh, for sure.
We just knew that, you know, Godzilla was good at most of them, and you should have had some sideboard cards for Deku, but
Yep.
there wasn't any data. Now we have like these much more prestigious events. Some of them are hitting crazy big numbers. We have deck lists for them. We have all of them sorted in a nice, neat place. Shout out to
Metaversus.
baby.
Yeah.
my goat, Carl, my goat. Yeah, dude, it's really, really awesome to have some kind of like, you know, middle DNA there for the competitive players. And it just keeps everyone so much more engaged.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just looking at the regional calendar and you're like, well, I'm going to that one and that one, so those 4 months in between, I'm playing something else.
It's also really great in terms of, like you were saying, mid-ground, because if you don't want to, like, from trying to attract new players or trying to cater towards people who are not as competitively slanted, if you don't want to show up to locals to play test your Titan of Terror deck and kick people's teeth in who are playing their Keyleth theme deck, then you can at least try it at an LC.
I love
I'll pass the ball back over to you in terms of like from a TO perspective, how have these LCs been for you?
So I have some gripes that are more of, I think, a misunderstanding of what was expected of a store going into these. I think so many people, because there is now this middle ground, there's a group of the players that are willing to take a bit more of a drive to come to these because of the travel, because of the all the additional stuff that we've been adding, that we did play in some events that started much later than they probably should have. But I think the really, really nice thing is we talked to those stores. We explained, like, you're going to have more people showing up to these than you probably expect if you are a store that just runs UNIVERSUS every week, right? Your 4 players, they come hang out. So you are going to have more numbers. And I think there was a understanding coming out of that. And I think if I was a store who ran my first LC and 16 people showed up, 20 people showed up, to one that I'm like, I thought I was going to get 7. I think that's a true show that the adjustment is working.
Yeah.
And it's nice to, one, you'll get a bunch of data and see how all that went, but to know that, like, because I think last year it felt like we just like were the only people that were traveling around to some of these store championships.
I mean, I went to places where I was me and one other person were the only person at the LC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane, right?
And not once did we go to one this season where I felt like we were close to that.
Yeah, you know, it's like, it's basically a completely brand new event structure and system. There's almost no connective tissue to the previous LCs outside of like the prizing kits clearly printed the same way. The names didn't change. It's a little confusing, very cognizant, and very, very aware of that. Don't worry. And none of them had happened yet. And it was all on probably a shorter notice than I would like.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised some stores probably just thought that this was kind of the same old thing. They just had to apply for it this time. I know a lot of stores didn't even understand that they had to apply for it. For the round 3 and 4 window, I did do 3 weeks of application time instead of 2. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Spoiler alert, it did. There's like 60% more applications for round 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And I think that is also dawning back to, if you were a player that went to an LC, you got to play in one, you're going back to your store and being like, get one of these.
Oh yeah, for sure. The
Do
FOMO,
what you can.
The
get
FOMO
one
is
of these.
crazy.
Yeah. And that is the excitement. That is the the people are talking, the people are moving, and that's the entire
Yeah, man,
point.
that's what we need, man. We need that excitement, and we need the hype to kind of carry over. We need the fervor to transfer over between stores, between players. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen this much like Discord chatter, this much deck list sharing, this much testing going on. Like the sentiment really feels like it's hitting home.
I feel bad because we may be getting Pumat banned before Kyle gets to play in the regional. So.
Actually, if you look at the data from our LC, don't. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah.
The finals was not 2 Pumats, and it wasn't my entire dream coming true, and it's the best day.
Yeah. There's no reason one of the best players in the game decided to play Pumat. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Kevin Broberg just likes playing silly fun decks.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's a goofy little guy.
goofy
He's
guy.
guy.
His
Silly guy.
alt art.
Yeah.
Kevin Broger's last thing about Pumat when he left was the alt art looked sad. So just take that away.
Yeah. Do you want to make him more sad?
Yeah, you want to make it more sad? You was
Just play Belatro.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
yeah. Play
Yeah.
Kevin Broberg.
Yeah, play Kevin Broberg.
Kevin was probably playing Belatro during half his games.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
true. Sometimes you can.
Yeah.
Well, we obviously got through the LC season. Resounding success. I'm excited to see where that goes. But we have the next iteration of regionals.
We do.
Yeah.
We sure do, man. I'm very excited. Something that Mitch, you were kind of talking about earlier is like the LCs all kind of feeding into the regional. That was like, I really wanted like something that I've always had a really big gripe with. It's like the showman in me about our organized play structure is it didn't feel like there was like a clear sense of like timeline and progression and like systematic, squads or rounds or series. I think people would use the word seasons nonstop last year. People in UVS games would even use it. And I feel like no one actually knew what a season was. Everyone just kind of used it because it sounded like a fine word, but there was no real definition. The big thing this year is there's the rounds. There's round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4. There's a little bonus round store scrambles post UCS. The UCS is the big finale. Like it's this really clear system, and the rounds need to feel like distinct and unique.
Oh yeah.
Even if there's not even like, new products or metas forming between them, like the fact that you have these four consistent back-to-back weekends of UNIVERSUS with these LCs, and then all that culminates into the big regional as like the finale of the round. I love that. I think it adds like a lot of like cool fanfare. It feels like the LCs are all like, like you're scrimming, you're practicing every single weekend, grinding, learning, evolving the meta, and then we get on the grand stage here at the regional and we figure out what really counts by the end of it. What emerges from these last 4 weeks of action.
Yeah. If you're an audio listener, we keep pointing to a deck box that is on the screen that I would just take the chance to go look at. It's gorgeous. It's wonderful. It feels incredible. You know the brand.
Yeah. So this is just the custom mock deck box from LBD Duel. If you're in the Yu-Gi-Oh scene at all, you probably know that name. And they just do some absolutely insane work. And I came to them and just said, hey, I need a big fat batch of deck boxes for some events this year. And they totally delivered. I'm in love with this deck box.
Yeah,
the
gorgeous.
7 deck boxes you have for Chicago regionals are phenomenal.
Because you're top 8ing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
I don't know what happened to that
Of
8th
course.
one.
I think it just fell out of the truck.
Yeah. I took Shree out to the van, and then it was just it was going from there on
But
out.
your point back to the rounds is it feels so much more like it is more structured than it was, which is the entire point. But data alone changes how that feels too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think the LC's just so good at that.
Even speaking to, like you were saying, like combination of our points of like iterating on stuff in between these LCs as the runway to a next event, right? It's not necessarily like, because season wise, when people were talking about that last year or the years prior, sometimes they would tie it to like set releases, sometimes they would tie it to ban lists, sometimes they would tie it to events. But with these like clearly delineated between timeframes, even without like a set being released or an event happening outside of just these 4 weekends worth of universes, it's very distinct in its identity, because season 1 or round 1 rather is post
Titan of Terror.
post Reign of Kaijus, pre-erratas. Titan of Terror runs the show for 4 weeks, and we start to see towards the end of those 4 weeks, instead of Titan of Terror winning
No Puma.
I was
Just
gonna say,
Titan of Terror.
instead of Titan of Terror winning 6 out of like 8 of these LCs, you are now very specific. Very specific.
He caught him.
Terry is gonna whip us.
He's
again.
not in the room with us. He can't tell.
He can hear.
He hears all.
But instead of having Titan of Terror winning 6 out of 8 of these LCs every week. Now we're starting to see some variation. We're starting to see Reiners. We're starting to see Pumats. We're starting to see Mitchell Chimino.
Yeah, Reiner won Gaming Giant, right?
Yeah, Reiner won Gaming
that was
Giant.
sweet.
Yeah,
man.
it
that was
was
tight. I like that
and
deck a lot.
It's really cool because you see the impact of like a new set, a new card type, actively making a character that had no competitive play prior, or if there was, then someone's going to get mad at me. No competitive play prior, coming back into fruition and being like, oh yeah, it turns out when you flip this guy over in a reasonable amount of time, he's really strong.
It turns out a 5th card type helped him a little bit.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Smidge.
And
little bit.
even next season is going to be also not with a new set, but we'll see how the event results from Chicago lead us to the next first Tuesday of the month ban list, because that'll be before the next series of LCs starts. So round 2 LCs will potentially be post Reign of Kaijus, post errata, post ban or errata of something else potentially, depending on how Chicago's data skews. And then there will be a set release and you'll see round 3 or post regional structure of all these other things. And it's very clear like identity to every round, like you were saying. And that's something that can really appeal to players in terms of if you were sour on the meta of Titan of Terror playing your action from your discard pile and killing you on turn 2 and you being upset about that. Well, just wait until the errata takes effect, go back to your local championship, renewed with a new idea that you think can survive post bans, post erratas. Go to Chicago knowing that there is an errata in place and you have all this data from people playing stuff that you can take the bones of and go, well, these cards are clearly for this thing that no longer exists that I have to care about. If I remove those, what does this deck look like? And all of that data from all of these unique rounds leads really well into every event for the rest of the season. And it's phenomenal. From a competitive player standpoint, it's been, like you said, so much chatter on Discord, so much fun sitting in a call with your friends going, okay, well, we didn't consider this. Gavin took down Gaming Giant with Reiner, and I haven't read the backside of that character besides when Dean flipped it on me. What do I do?
The one
Right?
time.
The one time.
One time for the one time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm overall really, really happy with how the LC model has panned out. You know, I know there's been a lot of fair criticism for it, as much as the glazing. Obviously, them being limited makes it a lot harder for some people to access them. And my heart goes out to those players. It's very unfortunate that the game is just not widespread enough for every single scene to have, you know, that level of activity and that level of accessibility to the game. I'm happy that a lot of players are taking that and just using it as encouragement to travel out to those bigger scenes and engage in their LCs. And, you know, who knows? The better these do, the more they perform. Maybe 40 is not the locked number from here on out.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No. Ooh.
Anything could happen next year.
Sure.
Anything could happen next year.
Anything that you would change going into Chicago from Worlds? Or I see a lot of the same structure, which was very effective, right, during Worlds with the side events. I know some dope ass promos are coming along the way that I'm going to get in line for that I need to substitute in every one of my decks.
I think, you
Kyle
know,
gets to
we
substitute
Yeah, that Kyle.
we got like a little taste of how crazy some prize items can be in Worlds when people were lined up in the morning for those deck boxes. That was very, very cool to see. That warmed my heart a little bit, you know. After being at so many other card game events, you know, for other games across the years and seeing that kind of, you know, that scrambling. I mean, dude, I don't even know how many lines I waited in at Star Wars Worlds for some of those promos, dude. It was awesome to see that in UNIVERSUS. It felt like a real coming of age. And I think I'm going to see some of it in Chicago too, because I don't know, if I go home with a single Rebel Frontier promo in my event crate, you'll color me a little bit shocked.
Yeah.
From Worlds to Chicago, then I think you're going to see a lot of the same DNA. If you look at the schedule, it's a very similar structure. You know, everything's laid out nice and clean. Everything's broken up nice and clean. You know when venues open, you know when deck lists are needed, when the event starts, when signups start, you know where your lunch break is, you know where all that jazz is. The actual schedule is of course a little different because Worlds was like this, you know, 3-day event or this 0-1-2 event. Now the regionals are a little bit different because of teams and retro. The way I like to think about Chicago's schedule is it's not that there are like big side events on certain days. It's more that every day there is a different main event. I like to think that on Friday, the main event of this regional is teams.
Yeah.
On Saturday, the main event of this regional is, you know, the Create a Card Backup Tournament. On Sunday, if you're not in top 16, the main event of this regional is the Retro 1K. That's kind of the way that I like to think about it. You know, obviously functionally, it's sort of all the same. But that's sort of what we've also kind of built the economy into as well. Because you'll see that like retro teams and the main tournament, the backup tournament, all have like the same entry fee. They pay out the same tickets. It's all a very, very rigid structure because I want people to go into these things knowing what they're going to get. I want you to be able to sit back, kick your feet up, register for every single side event or main event that you want to partake in, know exactly how much tickets you're walking out with minimum. I want you to be able to plot how you're going to get all your cool promos on the prize wall. Like, I want people to be able to sit here and figure out what their whole weekend looks like if they truly want to. And that's what I would want as a player. When I'm going to an event, I want to know what your prize wall items cost. I want how much tickets I'm getting, how much do I have to win out in X event to go home with X things. Like, I want to pull all that out, man. That stuff is really important to me.
So you've spoken a lot about what you would be looking towards for these big events from a player perspective, which I think lends itself to why things have been going so well with the Levi administration. Shout out to the slickness.
The State of the Union.
Is there specific benchmarks internally that you can share with us that the company looks for, that you are trying to match these player-focused goals with, like, company attendance? Like, are they going to get mad at you if not X amount of people attend the retro event, or if there's not X amount of unique registrants per region for whatever regional or something like that?
Blink twice if you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, don't worry. No, I'm not
We can edit this.
I'm not going to be trial under fire anytime soon, regardless of what you guys do. I don't think you have to worry about that. It is no secret that, like, there's some pretty significant improvements going into the regionals this year. You know, there's a little bit more going on. There's some pretty juiced up pricing, and obviously those things cost us a myriad of resources. You know, my time and energy, stuff like that. I don't think we have necessarily like these, hit X numbers or die sort of thing. It's really not that intense. We're just looking to learn this year. This is not a new concept, but this year's OP is, wait for it, it's pretty different. There's some changes, guys.
Wow.
There's some changes. Now, hopefully these changes are going to be, strictly for the better, but there is a lot of experimentation going on. And, I don't want people to think that, like, if they don't flood the retro event, that format is just going to disappear. It's certainly not going to be that cutthroat, that intense. But at the end of the day, attendance of the events does speak for itself. I need to know what you guys want. I need to know what you guys are interested in doing. What are fair levels of pricing? What are you guys interested in? What motivates y'all to sign up for these events? If retro gets 0 signups, well, what was the issue? Is 1K not enough? Should it be more? Is cash not the thing? Do you guys want to create cards again? Do you guys just want a different format? Like the format, there's so many factors to consider. So I don't think that you guys have to worry about anything like so critical, like being, again, I'm not looking to punish people for not going to things. I'm looking to motivate people for going to things.
Yeah, for sure.
I want positive reinforcement all the way here. I think that's how you build trust with your player base.
Somewhat selfish question here, I guess, in that regard. In terms of, it seems you favor carrot versus stick in terms of motivating people to attend or do things. Speaking about teams have storied history in this game between UFS and UVS now. One of the biggest things that drives anyone, one of the, it's the coolest prize in gaming. I'm pretty sure that's been the buzzword that you guys have used as advertisement in the past. Is there a world in which, and this is not obviously like a concrete promise or anything like that, is there a world in which a team's format asset pays off again? Because we've seen some of the previous worlds winners or previous teams winners finally getting their assets or their character cards back from when they were in the UFS Jasco era and getting them now. And a lot of people who are new players, we had a couple people at the Silk Road LC that I went to. It was like a father and son who was playing in the event. They watched me and Ryan playing the Mitchell Tremino mirror match, and they went, "Who's that on the card?" And then Ryan pointed at me, and the kid pog-faced. So,
well, of course I know him.
Yeah, of course he's me.
Walled IRL that is so funny.
But Doctor, I am Pagliacci.
I'm him.
So
can I rephrase the question?
Yeah.
Is there a world where I can pay Tim Keefe and Kevin Broberg to allow me to ride their coattails to an asset?
Bro's got a team and is making other shoutouts. This is crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But,
sorry, Phil. We're not good enough.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. So when it comes to benchmarks, though, obviously, big number go up, big number good. Levi happy when number good. I think, though, as long as we're not doing worse than the average of specific regionals in their respective regions that they were in last year, I think I'm pretty happy there, and I don't think anything is in jeopardy by any means. The real thing that I'm going to learn from attendance this year is what is and what isn't working.
Sure.
So our team's going to get an asset. You know, I'll be very, very transparent. That is what I wanted at teams for every regional this year. However, we have still a handful of champ cards to catch up on, or at least we had more of them when we were actually planning all of this. And we also injected 4 more creative cards into the ecosystem this year. So, you know, I can only get out so much cardboard this year. And the compromise there is now teams at regionals has the belts.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, you know, used to be a thing that was exclusive to teams at Worlds. So now if teams at regionals has the belts, well, maybe teams at Worlds needs a little injection in it. A little injection in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
but
heard it here first.
yeah. But again, anything can happen. Anything can happen when I sit down and I look at some real big fat numbers in front of me. Yep. That's the ammunition. So let's see how these first 2 regionals of teams events goes, and who knows what can happen.
Because I'll be honest, when you called what I in my head is the regional main event, the create a backup.
Create a backup main event.
I'm like,
ooh,
wait, that's
like,
got a good ring to it. I like that. So no, I like the slight rebrand and the slight adjustments with how you are treating each day. I actually think that will make the player base also react accordingly. Because we talk about the team event as like, oh, if we have free time on this day and if we're doing this and this. But when you're like, no, these are the 3 main events.
Yeah.
Playing the ones that you want to. It does feel like when the top down is treating it with that much more of a care, I think you'll see a lot of good results from that. And I'm very excited.
You know, again, like the belts are at every regional now. That's pretty cool. If you don't care about the belts, it's probably pretty similar. Honestly, I think the main thing, and I think this is something that people are really going to learn this weekend, is now that like the prize wall promos are just like so significantly juiced between like the dope Rebel Frontier art and them being these like staple reprints. I think people are going to be very unprepared for how much of a shakeup the prize wall meta is about to be. And whether or not you're playing in teams, I think the big allure of being there Friday is that you get that whole extra day to get those prize wall promos.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's going to be a sad day for all of the Friday night arrivers when they show up Saturday morning and there is a line at the prize wall and everyone has their tickets from playing all day Friday. And they're going to go,
FOMO,
man.
FOMO does a lot for people. So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, that's what I'm honestly. That's the meta that I'm excited to see to see grow and develop. Is people going, whoa, hang on, the prize wall's kind of sick with it now.
Yeah, for sure. Me specifically being a person that pays very little attention to a lot of random like news and updates, just walking up to my friend who does know what's going on and going, what am I buying? Like, what am I going to the prize wall for? And how fast do I need to get there?
Yeah, that's the type of stuff that I really want to see. You know, as an event manager, that is the kind of excitement, the kind of scramble that I'll see. And again, you know, it's not punishing you if you don't show up, but again, if you do show up,
It's a pretty sweet incentive.
Dude, the carrots, man.
Yeah.
The carrots are all over the place. The carrots are the finally free reprints.
Finally free, yes. Yeah.
That's what I'm ready for, man. I think it's gonna be dope.
I want to throw one last curveball in, Levi. You've been so gracious with your time here with us today. But it's, you know, we were talking about Star Wars. We were talking about a few other games. I wanted to take a 30,000 foot overview lens of organized play. I think organized play has faced a lot of challenges in a lot of games in this industry for a litany of reasons. And from Magic on downwards, we've seen, you know, Riftbound potentially issues, right? Getting people access, etc. One Piece access, being able to afford to play in these tournaments. You know, there are very few people right now who seem to have a successful organized play fan base that is satisfied and healthy seemingly in the industry, you know, like Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
And even that is really expensive and hard to get into. So what's your thoughts on the state of OP? And I'll open this up to the broader group. And what are the things that people need to do to get this healthy, right?
Show up and show out, man. You know, if there's anything I can tell you that makes my life easier, it's when number get big. That is the best thing I can weaponize. That is the best ammunition I have. That is the best feedback. There is literally no greater power I can put on the table when it comes to improving OP than look at all these happy people. Look at all these happy people that just want to get happier and grow. That's really the best thing that you guys can do for me. As far as the state of OP, yeah, man, the challenges over these last few years have been nonstop. You know, we've been cycling heads constantly. Consistency is hard to get when you're doing that. And at the end of the day, as much as change is scary, if the thing needs to get better, the thing's got to change. And yeah, you're throwing me a curveball with this question. I'm throwing UNIVERSUS a massive curveball by standing up here once again and going, yeah, guys, it's time for a whole nother OP rework. And you know what? There might be another one next year too. It depends what works this year and what doesn't. But at the end of the day, I want to come in here, start some new experiment, and then learn and grow with you guys. That means there's going to be changes. That means there's going to be hardships, but that's what a learning experience is. The relationship has to grow and nurture. And that is a luxury that a lot of the previous people in my position haven't had. They've been here 1 or 2 years. They didn't have full control, full agency over things. And at the end of the day, they're not here anymore, which means they cannot continue to iterate on their plan. And I'm going to come in and make a new plan that I want to put in and then try to iterate from there. So I am infinitely grateful to the UNIVERSUS players for tolerating all of these changes and all these upsets. And that's one of the reasons why I try to be so transparent, because I don't want you guys to feel like you're getting all these changes for the sake of getting changes. You're getting all these changes because I truly feel like they're good for the game. I'll be very, very, very blunt here. I'm not here because I have years and years of, event experience, of OP experience. I ran card fight Vanguard locals at a small town in Louisiana when I was 13 years old. That's about the extent of event experience I had before, I came over into this department. In my 2.5-year tenure so far at UVS Games, if you're just counting by employment, not contract work before, I haven't even been in this department for the majority of that. So, I'm not here because I'm your big crazy industry veteran. We tried that a couple of different times in a couple of different ways. It didn't turn out to be what the game needed. So I'm just here because
you're passionate.
I just freaking love UNIVERSUS, man.
Yeah.
I'm here because I love UNIVERSUS, and I think that I can do a lot of good for it, and I think that I can give you guys this special perspective that this player base really deserves. In my mind, because we have such a small player base and they're so dedicated, they're so passionate, they're so consistent, it actually blows my mind that we don't have exactly what you guys want.
Yeah.
In my mind, it should be way, way easier because we just have to get to know you guys and then go from there. Obviously, the execution is a little bit more complicated. There's things like lack of data, lack of experience, lack of experiments. Again, one of the things I really cannot stress enough is that we have never, ever, ever, in or outside of my time here, stress tested the local game store. I'm going to end this year knowing that I can have 20 to 30, 40, 50 person events at local game stores over the course of an entire year. Heck, that might be grounds for an entire new event type. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, the changes this year are ravenous. They're going to keep being ravenous. They might get even more ravenous next year. But at the end of the day, all I ask is that you guys bear with me, go through these changes with me, tell me what does and doesn't work for you guys. And at the end of the day, hopefully we can build an OP program that is what UNIVERSUS players deserve. That is what the game deserves, man.
Yeah.
This game is amazing, and it needs events that are just as innovative, unique, and mind-blowing in this industry as the game itself is.
Yep. For sure.
So I feel pretty dang good though about where things are right now.
You should be.
I'm super stoked with how things have panned out. I'm very, very excited to see the community in Chicago, and hopefully it's onwards and upwards from here.
Yeah.
I think the reaction from the community has been ecstatic and extremely positive.
Especially you being so boots on the ground, and feedback is not something that an average player feels like what they say matters. And I have seen you talk to every single player that has ever come up to ask you a question, and transparency is what gives that so much power. You aren't just sitting there being yes, it will be this, it will be better. You are just we're trying this and we'll see how it goes. And if you guys don't like it, just let us know. We'll figure it out. We'll make adjustments. And we'd be more of a death sentence to be no, we are doing this for the next 2 years. Good luck. Hopefully it works. That is not something I think anybody wants. So hearing you being we're going to be ravenous. We're going to try stuff. We're going to push the local game stores. We're going to push the regionals. We're going to push what worlds might look like. It's great to see that in a world where you have a lot of uncertainties for other games. At least if you come to play UNIVERSUS, you already play UNIVERSUS, you have the people that are fighting for you as a player. And I think that is a huge thing, and we want to thank you for that. So
Yeah.
I mean, thank you guys for making it worth it. Like you have to talk to the people. You have to get boots on the ground. It's events, man. That's literally what it's all about, is going to the event itself and actually talking to people and getting their feedback. UNIVERSUS players, they're easy, man. They'll tell you what they want.
Oh, for sure.
And when you give them something they don't want, they'll tell you even harder. And I love that. Again, in my mind, there is no reason I shouldn't be able to perfectly cater to you guys. Not going to be right off the bat because there's a lot to learn. Eventually, though, down the line, it's going to keep getting better and better, and we're going to keep learning and hopefully growing too, and justifying even more expansion too. But there's so many things that I have to find out. This year is all about experimentation. I don't think we've ever really experimented with stuff a lot, especially for things that are really unique to UNIVERSUS. Turning the LCs into practical PTCs again, changing up the regional structure, solidifying the rounds. I mean, honestly, one of the changes I'm most excited about this year is having the UCS not in March of next year.
Yes. Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Having the UCS not in March of next year is probably one of my favorite things, because boy, howdy, was it not fun to sit down and go, well, I guess 2026 OP starts in April.
Yeah.
That lull was
Crazy.
Tough.
Pretty long.
Yeah. And it means that we only get 4 rounds. It means we only get 4 regionals. Look at the OP calendar and tell me where a 5th regional fits. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't do it. So we're doing, basically the bare minimum that the calendar can handle this year. Whereas now we get to start completely fresh next year in January, and
and you get all the data from this year.
Yeah, infinitely more ammunition.
Yeah, for sure. And like you were saying, that feedback from the community is so incredibly important. And your feedback is also important. So if you guys liked what you saw and you want to see more, make sure you like the video, subscribe down below, and turn on the notification bell, because we will have at least one more video every week for you. Thank you so much for hanging out. Come stop by the Trading Post.
Dinging the bell. I'm dinging the bell. Ding. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, thanks so much for being here.
It's been a lovely little time, and thank you all so much for the event you hosted over this past weekend. I cannot tell you how much I needed to see 50 people all just having an absolute blast in a room playing this game, man.
And you'll see it again.
It was magical.